Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies, and this video is on The Chick and the Shell by Manly P. Hall, an article taken from the All-Seeing Eye, Volume 1, Number 6, October 1923. The Chick and the Shell. Most people are acquainted with the fact that chickens come out of eggs, this being an accepted theory. Proven by repeated phenomena, no further consideration is given to the problem, and we watch the wonderful processes of nature with a divine unconcern, seeing many things but thinking little about them. Now there is no greater lesson in all the world than the baby chick and the egg shell. How wonderfully nature protects the coming in of its little creatures. How it builds around the unprotected from walls and barriers that the latent lives may gradually awaken without danger of untimely interruption. How the embryo chick in its shell carries on, under the direction of the group spirit, the wonderful work of building a complex organism of blood, bone, and feather, unseen to the eyes of mortal creature. But now the great lesson, the tiny chick at its least completeness, its embryonic growth, and its parent shell, the divine father and protector of its tiny life, now becomes its worst enemy. If it is unable to break through that wall, it will surely die, destroyed by its own protection. Is this not a lesson in the study of man, his growth and his development? Are not the walls and laws and the spiritual guidances which protect man in his early infancy, the ruts and channels that he later gets into, are not the concepts which are bred in him as necessary parts of his youth and later life often walls and shells which will destroy him? Are not the creeds and religions which have guarded the infancy of his unfoldment like the shells of the egg, which protect him to a certain point and then strangle him? Are these not Kronos, the father of the gods, Saturn who devoured his own children? Great light should come to the soul of man when he studies a problem of this kind. Let us take it in another phase. Does not crystallization build around man the bodies necessary for his manifestation here? And does not crystallization also, after it reaches a certain point, inhibit the very qualities which it makes possible? Do not our thoughts build us and yet bind us by walls of our own limitations? It surely seems that they do. Our past concepts have built us and made possible our reaching human intelligence, and yet, sad to say, there comes a time when our very ideals strangle us unless all of our life grows great together, unless the shell expands with the egg, which no crystallized substance can. It must break or else destroy the life growing within it. Those who would go on to greater and more glorious fields of expression must break the shell of crystallization which holds them in, ties them down, and places around them the strangle cord of limitation. Yet in breaking this shell we must do it with reverence, for it has been for many years our protection, our shield, and our buckler. Our love for it, however, and our respect for the labors and growth we have passed through beneath its protection must not deter us from breaking it, for its greatest joy is in the realization that its work is done. It may rend our hearts to break the shell, but we will die if we do not, and neither we nor the shell will benefit thereby. All people who have set ideas are surrounded by shell. Sometimes these shells are large enough to allow growth to go on within them, but there are other times when the spirit is cramped within its shell. We must be willing and glad to break away from the concepts that limit us. This is one of the hardest things in the world to do, for we all love the thing we have been associated with, the things which we learn when young, the creeds, the philosophies, the ideals which helped us to grow in the years that are past. They are in truth the fathers of the things we are, and yet in order for us to grow, it is necessary for us to slay the parent. This point is beautifully brought out in the legend of Krishna and the battle of Kurukshetra, where the youthful prince, in his complacent with the laws of Krishna, drew the arrow to the head and slew with its own sire. Too often our spiritual channels of expression become too narrow for us, but we need never to be narrow ourselves. For when a creed begins to blind us, then the moment has arrived when with the spear of truth and light we must slay our own protector, lest he slay us with his walls of living stones. So the little chick breaks the shell and comes forth, or failing to break the shell, dies within it. And once more the father protector has slain his child with his loving embrace, because the child was not strong enough to slay the parent. Like the seed in the ground, which is nourished and guarded by the green mold, and yet oft times is murdered thereby, so the spirit of man is protected by the shell of matter, which oft times slays its own son, when the child does not rise triumphant from the protecting womb. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.